Win number 6 is elusive for the Huskers. They get one more chance Friday, Memorial Stadium.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Thank you for making it your second watch and listen each day, because I know some of you do that. Greatly appreciate it. And you everydayers, thank you for hanging out with me each episode as we go through your Huskers every day here on Locked On Huskers. Before we get into the recap and reaction to what was Wisconsin, and then get eyes forward to Iowa, super producer Rico, if you would please let them know about listening.com.
Thanks, DP. Why don't textbooks and research papers come with audio versions? Wouldn't it be amazing if you could listen to it like an audiobook? Now you can. Listening.com is an app that turns any academic reading into audio. It can pronounce difficult technical words, read math equations, and even knows to skip the citations and footnotes. If you go to listening.com/lockedon, you'll be able to get your first 3 weeks for free. Go to listening.com/lockedon. Back to you, DP.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated. There's lots to kind of wrap our brains around and settle our minds over this episode, course of this episode. A couple things to talk about. Again, we have a chance to look back and at least try to make sense of what happened in Madison, Wisconsin Saturday night. Tell some of the stories and break down some of the things that we think we know versus what we know versus what we think we know. And then finally to turn and get eyes on a short week, to get eyes towards Memorial Stadium and Iowa. The Big Ten West is still a story, but the Heroes Cup is its own thing in this space. And when your neighbors, when your backs are against each other and you can peek over into each other's fence and you can sometimes pick the fruit born from trees in another place, that's what Nebraska and Iowa is. But Wisconsin was in a similar situation. Both teams went into Saturday's game at 5-5. Yes, tell me if you've heard this story before, that Nebraska faces a team with the same record and with similar opportunity, trying to accomplish. They go to Maryland. They face Maryland with a chance to get their 6th win. Maryland fighting for their 6th win, trying to become bowl game eligible. And the Terps figure out a way to escape Memorial Stadium with a win in a one-score game. Last play of the game. Maryland goes forward, and then the Huskers travel to Madison, Wisconsin. And the opportunity remained the same. To win your 6th game, become bowl eligible, change the narrative of the season, change the mood and the vibe of the fan base, to give some celebration for the players who none of the players who have been at Nebraska their entire career have participated in the bowl game and had the additional weeks of practice and prep. And Nebraska doesn't even know, like, with the 6th win, what it all means. But to me, the opportunities that were lost and left behind in Madison, Wisconsin, it's disappointing because it didn't take much to fix some things that went wrong. And then the question becomes, what could have been done for Nebraska to leave Madison with a win? Well, there are several things in play, and all of them are, quite frankly, we've been down this road before. Nebraska jumped out to a 14-0 lead on 2 scores, and the Chubba Purdy, first of all, Chubba Purdy getting the start. Big deal. Like, it's a big deal that this is your 3rd starting quarterback in 11 games. That's not conducive to a highly successful season. It's not ideal. It's certainly not the plan. And with all of the changes happening, whether it be from injuries or poor play, it still remains. Fact still remains that Purdy was the third quarterback to start. Now, he made 2 explosive plays back to back to start this thing off. Now, listen, to go in the fourth minute of the game for Purdy to drop back and then to pull the ball down and then be athletic in running for 56 yards, putting Nebraska ahead before the clock struck 10 minutes. And as Husker fans, I try not to speak for all Husker fans ever. But I can tell you that some Husker fans, whether it be on social media or the space that we were in and watching the game, that Husker fans smiled and applauded, but there was never comfort. There was never comfort. 5.5 minutes later, Chubba Purdy drops back and hits Jalen Lloyd on a 56-yard touchdown pass. So it's 14-0 at 9 minutes being played. At that point, Nebraska fans, again, whether it be social media in the space that we're in, began to believe that, we found a thing in Chubba Purdy. We found the missing link. Everybody went through several discussions over whether this was the Purdy that we or they expected. Most cases being no, whether it was time to buy in and release yourselves. But as has happened in previous and recent years for Nebraska, the thing that happened was the opposing team woke up and decided, you know what, Nebraska, we're not going to give this to you. We're going to make you earn it. We're going to make you fight for it. So Wisconsin goes on a touchdown drive. They score on a 25-yard pass to Aker from Tanner Mordecai, and the whole Tanner Mordecai thing is a whole other discussion. And then a final drive with 2 minutes left to get a field goal. So it goes from 14-0 to 14-10 at the half, and there were opportunities. Of course, you had a missed kick, and I think that's a moment that we probably need to circle and put in highlighter, because in the moment it could have been missed. How important missed field goals are to this football team and this football program and this fan base. Nothing drags a black cloud into it like missed field goals. And look, this is a time where the Huskers were playing turnover-free, the turnover-free first half. Thrill. Penalties started to pop up, missed field goal, and then everybody took a deep breath and then assessed that at 14-10, this was a ball game. Still hadn't given up, but it's a ball game. We'll put a pin there. When we come back to Locked On Huskers, we'll talk about that second half and then get our eyes forward to Iowa a little bit. We'll go through some of the numbers of this ball game against Wisconsin. We'll do that here when we return to Locked On Huskers. Thanks, gang. DP here, Locked On Huskers again. Thank you. If you haven't followed, please do. If you haven't subscribed, take a moment, hit the pause button. I'll freeze. So you can go and subscribe, get this content every day, your Huskers every day. This is through football, through basketball, through wrestling, through volleyball, through baseball, through softball, through track and field, through all of it, through all of it. Year round. We'll just carry you through it. So don't trip. In talking about Wisconsin, a 14-10 halftime score, and before we get too deep, those numbers, those betting numbers come into play. Rico, would you let them know about FanDuel and those numbers?
Thanks, DP. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Back to you, DP.
Thank you, Rico. Greatly appreciate it. Listen, 14-10 at halftime in a game that you lead 14-0. And then sometimes within that, depending on the program and the culture, the vibe, and the leadership, that's a good place to be. That's a great place to be. It's being in the lead at halftime is preferred. But then a thing happened in the second half where Braylon Allen, the guy, superhuman, looks like a defensive end playing running back, began to impact the game. And how he impacted the game, 22 carries for Braylon Allen, who was injured. They put him, even before the game, they weren't sure they were going to be able to use him. 22 carries. Now, mind you, the black shirts were exceptional in how they defended it. 22 carries for 63 yards. And there's not a defensive coordinator in the country who's facing Braylon Allen who said, you know what, if he gets 22 totes and we hold him to 63, I'm going to be mad. There's good, bad, and ugly when it comes to this thing. It's the 2 touchdowns that Braylon Allen got. It is the additional impact and the leaning on the wear and tear of having to face this running back, because he required another defender in the box. He required another defender not defending Tanner Mordecai. And Tanner Mordecai it was brutal to watch. It was brutal to watch. Let me give you some of the numbers that Nebraska and Wisconsin both had 19 first downs. Pretty balanced in the amount of rushing first downs and passing first downs. Okay, fine. Both teams had 40 rushing attempts. Wisconsin averaged 4.9 a carry. Nebraska averaged 3.9. In a game where Nebraska went in as the feature, as the better rushing offense, I kept saying, if Braylon Allen is in the game, not only what he does in production, it's what he causes defense to do. It's an additional body and a body and a half, maybe 2, that can't account for a running quarterback. It's a thing. It's a thing. But that, and let me correct myself. It was Wisconsin that averaged 3.9 a carry. Nebraska at 4.9. But the reality is the 2 touchdowns that they got in the red zone showed up in this game. This is how it worked. Nebraska had 220 yards rushing, 223 yards rushing to Wisconsin's 173. It is impressive. Now, again, both quarterbacks played. Chubba Purdy was 15 of 23. Those are good numbers. 11 a completion, 7 per attempt, 1 passing touchdown. Tanner Mordecai was 18 of 28, 8.9 per completion. But he ran the ball, and it showed up. The rest of the numbers, as you go up and down the list, provide some information. But there was balance, and there was just look. It was going to come down to who made the last play, the biggest play, and it's true. Like it's true. Braylon Allen, 22 carries officially for 62 yards, 2.8 a carry. Tanner Mordecai, 9 carries for 51 yards, 5.7 per carry. Chubba Purdy, listen, his numbers were exceptional. 14 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown. So he competed. Your quarterback competed. Emmett Johnson and Anthony Grant combined 25 carries for 95 yards, 3.8 a carry. It was a grind. Nebraska's defense couldn't figure out how to defend Will Pauling, who gave him 8 catches for 79 yards, and most of those critical first down on third down throws. Billy Kemp did his thing. He had 8 catches on 10 targets, but for only 43 yards, and one of those was a 29-yarder. But to get more production from Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, and Allen, look, Lloyd gave you the 58-yard touchdown, but listen, 1 catch a game for he and Bullock. If 2 of your 3 starting receivers only get 1 catch, it's not the most productive day. Buschini struggled, and it showed a couple of times. Only 35 yards a kick. Not much you can do about it. Put it behind you and figure it out. But the big point of discussion was whether Nebraska handled end of half drive well. Did they handle end of game drive well? Did they make good decisions on whether to run the ball this week in a critical situation, short yardage? Did you want them to go for a touchdown? There's all the discussion of win versus home versus away, and when you go for the win and when you play for the tie, and all of that. There are analytics all over the place. Ultimately, play calling matters, and execution matters. Placing the blame on each and all the coaches or any player to all the players, it's a team move. There were things that could have been done long before the final drives to make this thing less meaningful. It didn't come down to that. A week ago, they chose to throw the ball in the red zone, got it picked in the end zone. Everybody screamed and yelled, well, why wouldn't you just take the field goal and take the tie or take the lead? Different coaches have different philosophies, and whenever analytics get involved, listen, there's always going to be room for folks to complain or be upset or other. The reality is this: missed opportunities, missed sack opportunities, missed interception opportunities, open receivers, throws not being made, miscommunications on pass protection, miscommunication on run fits. But this was winnable. And the frustration that some Husker fans have aired has just been another close game loss for Nebraska. You can say we played well and we just didn't make the final play, or you can say we didn't play well enough, which puts the final play in importance. The reality is this: this football team and this football program has to learn to do the most difficult thing in all of sports, and I will keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. The most difficult thing in all of sports is to finish. Learning to do so is the greatest lesson a winning team gets. We'll throw it a break. We'll come back. We'll get your final segment. We'll talk a little bit about Iowa and this thing that's happening Friday at Memorial Stadium. Hey, gang, DP here. And again, thank you for hanging out with me. Fist bump. Boop. Listen, from a high school coaching standpoint, what I hope is happening is that the first 11 games, the lessons of those 11 games have been accepted, received, and Huskers are choosing to improve by it. Here's the opportunity. Is in a one-game season, and go with me here, on a one-game season, that there's one game left that matters. Now, some coaches will tell you that that's always the case. That's always the case. The next game is the only thing that matters. But in this particular case, Memorial Stadium, a 5-6 team plays against its rival at home, last game for some seniors, and an opportunity to change the narrative and change the discussion and change the opinion and change the standing of this team and program. Nebraska football needs to win this game Friday. And that means in the preparation, even on a short week, that the preparation has to be that you don't need to put additional importance on it, but I'm going to. It should be enough for Nebraska players to just want to do the right thing often. Excellence is simply doing basic, simple things exceptionally. That's how you know. And if they can get past, go back to the day. They had penalties this week that were tough. They had blown blocking assignments and blown running assignments and wrong route combinations and wrong audible reads. And okay, there's a ton of things. But the reality is you get one more chance to get it right. There are benefits to getting it right this time. But those benefits have been there before. An additional few weeks of practice and having meaning and purpose and have the program active. There are players on this roster and coaches on this roster that need for this team to have additional time together so that they can grow. All these young players, all these new coaches, fan base that's still trying to identify who their players are, who their heroes are, who their favorites are. And to be able to see them in full for another 2-3 weeks would be vitally important to this team. But that's going to require that they do all the things that in a 5 and 6 season, sometimes they got it right, sometimes they didn't. Friday at Memorial Stadium, it's going to be cold and it's going to be miserable. But guess what? There's nothing wrong in Lincoln, Nebraska in football programs that a win won't cure. Nebraska has every opportunity. Listen, I know it's for the Heroes Trophy, but to me, play this thing as though it means everything, and it should. Play this thing like if you need added motivation and momentum, make this your bowl game. Make this a playoff game because it's win it, as Jim Valvano said, win and advance. Do you want the additional weeks? Do you want the additional reps of practice? Do you want the additional focus and attention? Do you want the perks? Does the fan base deserve a chance to go to a bowl game, whether it's Vegas or Birmingham or Pinstripe or whatever? Nebraska has a chance to do a thing. One thing. And that is beat Iowa. I won't say who it means more to. But to Nebraska fans, it means everything. Players, do your thing. Coaches, do your thing. Fans, hang in there. Hang in there. I hope they play this game as though it's a playoff game. All hands on deck. Everything open. The odds makers will put this thing at 20. At the over/under at 27.5, which means and a 1.5 point favorite for Iowa, which means they expect this game to be 14-13. Listen, we can fully expect a one-score game. I'm not sure I'm built for another one-score loss against Iowa, against a bowl game possibility. So Huskers, from me to you, get her done. Get her done. That's it for me. I'm DP, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making this your first watch and listen each and every single day. And for all of you everydayers, thank you. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.